Hey Internet, this is Anarchy in the 603 and welcome to another postcard from your friendly neighborhood anarchist. Yet another quality-free, half-baked entry into what's going on in my mind. So it's 8:30 on a Sunday, a little early to be up, but I had to bring my son home from work this morning. Well, I didn't have to, but, I offer. And he works overnights, and so I was already up at 6:30 this morning, and we were talking, and it got me to thinking about my video from yesterday. I was talking about Luigi Mangione and why I understand what he did, even though, of course, I don't condone murder. And I wanted to talk today more about the victim, Brian Thompson, and share why maybe I'm not as sympathetic as a lot of folks out there would say that I should be. So, hold on a second. It's a terrible habit, kid. Never pick it up. Anyway, so Brian Thompson, he was a father, a husband, and for all I know, he may have been a great guy to his friends and family. But he was also the head of a $20 billion a year company. $20.5 billion a year. Now, there are some who would say there's nothing wrong with that. Me, I would say, what ethics are there in running a billion-dollar company, multi-billion-dollar company, that bases its billions on denying people health care? But that's the thing, right? We don't look at it as murder when it's numbers that big, right? We don't look at it as murder when it's just a system, it's just the bureaucracy, it's just, oops, our AI somehow manages to allegedly deny up to 90% of the claims that are sent its way. 90%. I wasn't aware that health insurance was essentially just a deep pool that you pour money into, and much like gambling, hope that you get some kind of return. Like, last I knew, it was a service, Oh, shit. There we go. But anyway, yes, I understand he's got a family that's mourning, and I'm sure that it is very difficult as a family member of Brian Thompson's right now to be trying to grieve this man and hearing that people are kind of just worldwide giving a shrug, Like, I've lost family members this past year. I just lost my brother this summer, and his death didn't make headline news. So as far as the rest of the world is concerned, it's like the world just shrugged. Like, my brother's death was caused by years of not having adequate health care. Yeah, like, you can't say that, that was murder. No, it was death by 1,000 cuts. It was a slow, long decline. He worked in the restaurant industry for decades and didn't have health insurance for most of it, because the restaurant industry is notorious for that. And then, like, all those years where he was dealing with blindness, neuropathy, complications from unchecked diabetes, living in a state out in Nebraska where they didn't have the Affordable Care Act, aka Obamacare, to do expanded Medicaid. So he had no insurance during all these fucking years when he could have been getting help and his body could have been made stronger to withstand the freaking pneumonia that killed him and stopped his heart. Fluid around the lungs and the heart, pulmonary edema. Anyway. So, that leads me to another name. You've probably heard it a lot in the news, this name a lot in the news. Jordan Neely. I haven't seen any interviews with his family about how they feel. See, Jordan Neely was a man with mental illness in the middle of, clearly of a mental illness crisis on a subway when this man, Daniel Penny, decided to take matters into his own hands and allegedly to protect the people on the train around him, instead of fetching the authorities, he choked this man out and killed him. And in some circles, that man's being hailed as a hero too. And hell, on Fox News, Laura Ingraham, in one breath on a segment the other day, she's going on about how she doesn't understand why people are cheering on Luigi Mangione for what he did, how it's disgusting. You know, like, she can't understand how they could be, you know, like, cheering on this one guy, you know, this murderer. And then the very next segment, like literally the next breath, she goes into talking about Daniel Penny and how some are hailing him as a hero. So it's murder when you don't agree, and it's a righteous killing when you do. Okay. Well, I'm a Taoist. I'm not a Christian, but last I checked, you know, the majority religion in this country is, and a lot of the folks who are saying that, you know, what Daniel Penny did was a heroic act, they're Christians. And I thought one of the 10 Commandments was thou shalt not kill. It didn't say anything about, well, it's not killing if you know, if. There's no if, right? It's just pretty point blank. So which one's a murderer and which one's a hero? You know, what are these distinctions? Like, when you really think about it, every single person out there has a life that is just as complicated, just as complex, just as full of contradictions as yours, you know? And, like, the slain United Healthcare, laughable name, Healthcare, CEO, Brian Thompson, $20.5 billion company he sat on. Doling out slow death by denial to countless millions of Americans. Like, there was a poll that says only 12% of people, you know, in the U.S. agree that what Luigi Mangione did was justified, or they agree with what he did. Forget the exact phrasing. And again, I don't agree with it. I understand it. There's a difference. But, like, 12% of the current U.S. population as of 2020 census is still 39,770,000 something people. Yo, I live in a state that only has 1.5 million people living in it. 39.5 plus million people. That's a lot of people who are struggling and suffering enough, who have either been harmed by the institutionalized violence that is healthcare claim denial, or they've had a family member, they've watched a family member die or decline, or they themselves have suffered, or they've struggled to get care for their kids or their parents. 39.5 million people and then some, enough, have been touched by what we have for a healthcare system in this country. Touched badly enough where they agree with that killing being justified. Now, that's a lot of fucking people, my dude. And maybe it's not as many people as who might agree that Jordan Neely needed killing. But, like, that says a whole lot about our country, you know, that we would see homeless folks, mentally ill folks, as disposable instead of holding up a mirror to ourselves and our own humanity. Like, what does it say about us that we'd be so willing to throw away the least of us, but so willing to excuse the sins of a man who had millions of people's blood on his hands? Says a lot about us. But we talk about the lives of the least of us, the most vulnerable of us, like they're disposable. But then we say all lives matter, right? You know, Black Lives Matter is, you know, that's a racist, stupid sentiment. All lives matter. Well, then, didn't Jordan Neely's life matter? I'd like to think it did. Like, if Brian Thompson were a drug dealer, and he got shot in the street because of a drug deal gone bad, answer me this. Would you be saying then, well, you know, he was a father and a husband? No, you'd be saying, well, you know, he's a drug dealer. What do you expect? Some people need killing. Besides, the shit that he peddles kills so many people, destroys lives. How many people has United Healthcare killed? How many lives have they destroyed? How many equivalencies can we make? I can keep going. There are plenty. I empathize with Brian Thompson's family, but I don't sympathize for them. And I don't sympathize for him either. You know, if all lives matter, I'd like to think that the lives of all those people that died because they couldn't get their health care claims taken care of, that they couldn't afford their treatment, I'd like to think their lives matter too. Unfortunately, we just seem to live in a country and in a world where we treat life as disposable. That says a whole lot about us. None of it good. Anyway, I'm out.